Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Unique Not Different with me, Shambla. As you are aware, this month is Autism Awareness Month. And today I have an actual self advocate who is here to talk about her journey, discovering that she has autism later in life, and that changed her path and her journey towards self advocacy and helping young women and persons who is autistic, ADHD, and also neurodivergent in general. So, good morning, Karina Dorrit. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Good morning, and thanks for having me again.
It's a pleasure to have you again, Karina. You made a big impact last time I had you. So let's begin. What sparked your journey into self advocacy, and how it has shaped your identity?
I would have done a lot of independent research, and that would have led to eventually getting a diagnosis and recognizing um, there were different statistics related to uh, different experiences women and girls have while being neurodivergent. And this would have encouraged me to promote more awareness about different strategies that can be used to help support women and girls.
Awesome. So, how did your academic experience in disability studies influence your understanding of being autistic?
I would have been grounded in the human rights model through my disability studies, which is the current paradigm that influences how practitioners and the wider society should view people with disabilities. This would influence how approaches to promoting inclusion and all sorts of um, promotion of well-being of people with disabilities is seen for persons with autism.
Nice. And what are some of the most common ways neurodivergent women and girls in the Caribbean are misunderstood?
I would think that there are different ways in which people don't necessarily recognize um, autistic and ADHD women engage with others that can be seen as irritating or even off putting in certain ways. For instance, there is a tendency to engage in verbal stimming, there's a tendency to engage in physical stimming,
Mhm.
and these can manifest in ways in which women and girls choose to interact. These can manifest in ways in which women and girls choose to study or to problem solve. And I think that more awareness needs to be shed on how women and girls in the Caribbean do behave so that there's less stigma attached to different but not bad ways of being.
So, can you share a little bit about your story and your journey of discovering that you were autistic?
I would have received a diagnosis, and that would have led to more concrete answers about the behaviors that I would engage in and the ways of processing the world around me.
Mhm.
This was something that came from a lot of self study and self research. And through these preliminary efforts to have a better understanding of what I was experiencing, that is what led to eventually finding the relevant professionals who are able to aptly describe what someone like myself would be experiencing on a regular basis.
And when you got diagnosed, how did that make you feel?
It provided a sense of relief and also clarity.
Mhm.
There are many misunderstandings, and I think there are also a lot of misconceptions that are not necessarily clarified. unless someone who is a professional with an expert eye can step in and give more guidance.
And what kind of support do you believe are most urgently needed, especially young women who are neurodivergent in the region?
I believe that there needs to be greater advocacy for accessibility in physical spaces that women and girls use. There are classrooms that children have to learn in, and they may not necessarily have the lighting and other sensory adaptations that can help to soothe or create a more welcoming environment for neurodivergent women and adults. There are many adults who may not necessarily have concrete answers, but may suspect that they have some semblance of neurodivergence in their everyday life, and they may be in workplaces or other physical spaces that do not have the necessary adaptations to accommodate for lighting, acoustics, and other sensory adjustments that create a more inclusive physical space.
How does masking affect how neurodivergent women and girls are perceived by society?
One way that masking I have recognized from personal experience and from other lived experiences is that persons tend to discredit the existence of women and girls with neurodivergent conditions based on the fact that they appear to not have any of those traits due to the fact that they deliberately obscure their characteristics in order to try and function in society better. However, this is a barrier as these attempts by a marginalized group of women to be able to function in society are used against them, which is something that persons need to recognize is part and parcel of maladaptive ways of trying to function without the support.
In terms of like therapy and so on, right? Because, not only persons with autism, ADHD, neurodivergent may require therapy, right? But in terms of access to therapy, we need it more, right?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Do you think that therapy is accessible and affordable?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please?
Sure. Do you think access to therapy is it accessible and affordable?
I would say to a large extent, no, as there are different public health facilities that do exist, but depending on person's circumstances, they may not have the time or the ability to reach those physical spaces if it is that they have a job or if they are students or if there is some other obligation that preoccupies their time. And due to the backlog or the overcrowding of the public health system, because it is much more accessible to persons, there may be a barrier where some persons cannot access private facilities, which can be more attentive in certain cases. However, it is still a cost barrier that certain persons experience.
What, in closing, what message would you like to share to young women, especially watching this interview, who is neurodivergent?
I would encourage you to recognize that you are capable, you are special, you are valid, you are wonderful, and there's so much in store for you. Despite whatever challenges you face, you are able to experience a life that is fulfilling and all types of amazing.
That is a really powerful closing. And I think this would adapt to anybody, in general, because we all go through certain things and we are all different. And that is what society requires, different in order to be diverse in what we give. So, Karina, I want to say thank you so much. You were incredible, you were impactful, and very valuable information you shared this morning. So thank you for your time. And I wish you all the best going forward with your advocacy. And I'm sure I would have you back again when you create some impact. Continue to create impact. So thank you very much, Karina.
Thank you so much. Thank
My
you for having
pleasure.
me.
My pleasure, guys. With that being said, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in to this week's segment of Unique Not Different. As I always say, be good, do good. Bye, everyone.